So our theme this month for August is that you may prosper. And today's talk is how prosperity looks. You know, when I first came here in 2011, the first accredited class I taught at Center for Spiritual Living, West Hawaii, was titled Spiritual Economics. It's named after the book by Eric Butterworth, which I neglected to bring this morning, but I'll bring it next week if you want to look at it. And Eric Butterworth is a talented and exceptional metaphysical writer. The book and the class explore our ideas about money, about success, and about the value of prosperous living in our lives. Several people took that class back then, and we all learned that abundance is an expanding, growing, dynamic thing. So whenever I do a series on prosperity, this is the first book, Spiritual Economics, that I review, because it always causes me to focus my attention on every phase of my ministry as a part of prosperity. Each time I read that book, I gain new insights about bringing greater prosperity into my own life and supporting that process in others as well. For anyone over the age of 50, uttering the words, "I remember," is a very comforting feeling. When I sat down to prepare this talk, one of the first thoughts that came to me was something I remembered. And just that was cause for me to say, praise God, abundance is mine. I remember things. Well, some things better than others. But that may be selectiveness rather than forgetfulness. Think about that. Abundance comes in so many different ways, packages, and in so many expressions. And for me, the ability to use my mind is one of those. So right off the bat, here, we have an example of the abundance that is ours. None of us really believes that all the thoughts, all the events, all the memories of a lifetime, especially a lifetime as long as mine, are actually physically stored up here, do we? If you really believe that, by the time you got to be my age, your head would be the size of the state of Wisconsin with all that jammed in there. What we do know is that all of that thinking and remembering is our acceptance of the fact that we are tapping into a universal storehouse, one that is always open, its lights are always on, and the storekeeper is always on duty. When we recall something to conscious memory, we're accessing that universal storehouse. We could access anything and everything in it. However, most of us choose to revisit what we have already stored there. In other words, we choose to recall that which we ourselves have stored there, and even that is an abundance of stuff. Anyway, what I remembered when I sat down to prepare this talk was the exhilaration I felt the first time I heard the principles of successful living that are the principles of the science of mind. My traditional upbringing, and some of you have heard me talk about this before, had taught me guilt, remorse, unworthiness, lack, limitation, fear. Not things I really wanted to remember. And certainly not things I wanted in my treasure chest of abundance. So coming into a Science of Mind spiritual center and hearing them talk about unlimited anything was a big lift for me. Not too long after I joined the center as a first-year student, I was trying to explain to a friend of mine the marvel of how good I felt when I went to the center on Sundays or to the Science of Mind classes during the week. And his response to my excitement was, "Oh, I tried that. But I soon realized that it's just a feel-good religion, all about princes, palaces, and parking places." And I thought to myself, and the problem with that is, really? Of course we are a feel-good philosophy. How could we not be? How could anyone not be when they understand that the creative force which governs the universe invented good? Our job as citizens of this universe and children of its creators, I might remind you, is to live that heritage rather than finding ways to disparage it. You can probably tell this is one of my favorite topics. I love to talk about abundance, prosperity, opulence. Oh, that word is still right up at the top of my list of favorite words, opulence. And I love to talk about prosperity on Sundays. I love to teach it in classes and workshops. I love to think of new ways to express abundance. Because every person living now or before now has had experiences with prosperity at some level. It's universal. And a medium of exchange, most of us call that money, is universal as well. Every society, every culture, every civilization has developed some method whereby products and services have value. And the greater consciousness that we have about that, the better prepared we are to recognize the limitlessness of our potential. So once we understand that humankind's ability to create products and provide services is unlimited, the sooner we understand that, and we understand that we are tapping into a bottomless wellspring of creativity, we realize that it isn't limited to coming out of one of these only. Consequently, it's not limited by size, by place of origin, by parental lineage, or gender. So any one of us can have ideas that make us rich, make us beautiful, make us spiritual, talented. It's learning how to tap into that wellspring that gives us the opportunity to see how prosperity looks. Consider this pathway. A woman walks into a bank in New York City and asks for a loan. She says she's going to Europe on a business trip for 2 weeks, and she needs to borrow $5,000. So the bank president tells her that they will need some kind of security for the loan. So she hands over the keys to a Rolls-Royce automobile. The car is parked out on the street. It's in front of the bank. She has the title, and everything checks out. So the bank agrees to accept the car as collateral for the $5,000 loan. The bank president and his officers are all struggling to keep from laughing at this woman who uses a $250,000 Rolls-Royce automobile as collateral against a $5,000 loan. And as soon as she leaves the bank, an employee drives the car into the bank's underground garage and parks it there. So sure enough, 2 weeks later, the woman comes back. She repays the $5,000 loan and the interest that comes to $15.41. The loan officer says to her, "Miss, we are very happy to have had your business, and this transaction has worked out very nicely. But we're a little puzzled. While you were away, we checked you out and discovered that you're a multimillionaire. What puzzles us is why would you bother to borrow $5,000? And the woman just sits back and smiles and answers this way. She says, you know, where else in New York City could I park my car for 2 weeks for $15.41 and expect it to be there when I return? Think about it. Really? Maybe you noticed, I know I did, that when you first learned how to do spiritual mind treatment, or affirmative prayer, if you prefer to call it that, you were really good at it. You could write out those treatments and stuff happened. You could drive into a parking lot at Target or Foodland, do a quick spiritual mind treatment, and whoop, sure enough, there was your parking space right in front of you. And then somewhere along the way, something changed. Not everything you treated for immediately dropped into your lap. You were testing treatment on some of the bigger stuff. And what happened, you wondered? It doesn't seem to be working. Well, my friends, sometimes our pathways to prosperity get clogged. You know, kind of like Queen Kaahumanu Highway on Friday afternoons, or any time this past week with Mamalahoa being closed because of the fire. Sometimes we get blocked. As many cars as there may be headed out of town or going down into town, there are at least that many reasons that we can think of why prosperity and abundance are not flowing our way. Just know that those reasons exist only in our ordinary minds. Our ordinary minds compromise, they calculate, they question. Our ordinary minds compare, they measure, they rationalize, they commiserate. Our ordinary minds look for limits because limits are easier to comprehend. We see examples of them all around us all the time in the experiences of others, of course. I love the Willie and Ethel comic strip in some of the newspapers. I saw one of them not too long ago that really emphasizes this point. Willie is one of those people who is always lamenting his bad nature. Ever know anybody like that? Ever been anybody like that? Nothing ever goes right for him. And he's always looking for someone or something to blame it on. So he says to Ethel, his long-suffering spouse, "Almost is my life story. I almost got the job. I almost won the lottery. I almost picked the right horse." You know, Ethel mutters as she's leaving the room, "I almost hear you." So what is the alternative to our ordinary mind? How do we unblock, unclog, open up our pathways to prosperity? Well, I believe there are several ways that this can be done, and with some thought, you'll come up with many more, I'm sure. The first thing we must do, I believe, is to get out of our ordinary mind and to get into our glorious, unlimited, God-given mind. In our spiritual practice, we take time to really know what that is that we desire, truly desire, or intend. How often we spend time thinking about, worrying about what we don't want. And when we focus on what we don't want, what do we get? What we don't want, because that's where our energy is going. For example, let's say you want to be rich. You want to be wealthy, loaded with money. How would you manage that money? How would you invest it? Who would you share it with? And if you didn't choose to consider any of those things, what would you want all that money for anyway? You see, an ordinary mind doesn't really think to focus on the reality of the desire. It doesn't want to make commitments. It doesn't want responsibility. It doesn't want what goes along with having the desire. And frankly, that's why they have recovery groups for lottery winners. Many lottery winners learn about the law of circulation by receiving first, without understanding that receiving and giving are a part of the whole. When one doesn't understand the responsibility that goes with receiving, one will always give in a manner unplanned for, as in giving it up. So if your intention is to be rich, rich in money, rich in warm, loving relationships, rich in career or life's work, you must commit to that intention. You must bless every step along the way as it comes to you. You must choose to be grateful for everything which is already in your life, every day, in every way. You must take some time to be a serious, not solemn, please. Oh, please, not solemn, not heavy, but serious, as in committed, look at what you really desire and be sure you truly accept the responsibility for that. Then you must be willing to give forth that which you most desire in order to open up the flow of that to you. Did I really say that? Really? I'll say it again. You must be willing to give forth that which you desire in order to open up the flow of that to you. So if you're looking for more money, you must be giving of that which you already have. Get it moving, get it circulating, get it working for you. If you desire more love and compassion in your life, you must give of your love openly and in trust, not just to the object of your affections, but to all that God has created. I believe that God meets us at the level of our consciousness. When we are trusting this eternal, limitless, universal energy to provide, it does just that. When we believe in its limitless, unconditional abundance, that's what flows to and from us. It's where we are in consciousness that is the defining factor, because God's consciousness is already unbounded. So on your pathway to prosperity, check these signposts, these markers along the way. Markers like, how am I doing in blessing and accepting what's already in my life? Am I participating in the law of circulation, giving and receiving? Do I honor and respect prosperity in other people's lives? Have I written down my prosperity goals, and am I faithful with my prayer treatment work about them? Am I willing to put my trust and faith in a power greater than my ordinary mind to bring about my greatest desires? So this week, as you think about what's been said here today, I invite you to remember that you have the ability to tap into this universal storehouse, this storehouse that's always open, the one whose lights are always on, and whose storekeeper is always on duty. Every thought or memory that you have ever created is contained within that storehouse. And every thought, every idea, every success which has ever occurred through anyone else is there as well. What I'm saying is that if anyone, anywhere, at any time, has become wealthy, has experienced warm and loving relationships, has been vibrantly alive and vital, healthy, then you, me, all of us can tap into that and experience it for ourselves. If the roadway of your ordinary mind is clogged, blocked, restricted, take another route. Go at another time. Try a different mode of travel. I want to quote a very special lady. Her name was Alice Mirlo. And I did a memorial service for Alice some years back in San Diego, California. Alice wrote in her notes, which her family shared with me as we were preparing the service. Alice's words, "Through God's loving kindness, I will take possession of my mind instead of allowing my mind to possess me." So take possession of your mind and know that abundance is always yours to access and to use. Know that you have a glorious, unlimited, God-given mind, and the universe supports you, guides you, rejoices with you on your path to recognizing what prosperity looks like. Grant yourself the joy of seeing through new eyes all that has already come into your life, and grant yourself the joy of being open to even greater gifts. Then, as you open to realization that you are indeed one with universal givingness, think on this reminder from Eric Butterworth, author of Spiritual Economics. Your life is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift to God. And so it is.